Popular belief dates rugby back to 1823 when, in a move that equally pissed off and confused his classmates, a schoolboy named William Webb Ellis picked up a ball and ran with it, accidentally creating a new sport in the process. However, modern evidence suggests that this was not in fact how rugby began. For one, there's no evidence linking Webb Ellis to the game until after his death, and for another, archaeologists recently discovered an ancient Mesopotamian document believed to be the world's first match report. It provided a fascinating insight into rugby 4,000 years ago, normally only found when Clive Wood was working as a pundit. It contained just one phrase: "You never know which French team will turn up." Ever since, that phrase has hounded French rugby, like the two imaginary men that didn't beat up Mathieu Bastor in 2010. Traditionally, France danced between disinterested surrender monkeys and free-flowing prodigal artists, pitch-turned canvas as they conjure moments of explosive beauty. A perfect mixture of the lazy fool and the elegant genius. If any nation's history is summed up by their rugby traditions, France probably ranks first, just ahead of perennial loser Scotland and perennial racist South Africa. Except, for a long time, we did know which French team would turn up, because much like the chunky spirit animal they insist on playing at 13, French rugby tripped over whilst drunk in New Zealand, and has been struggling to get back up ever since. They had a backline who were individually amazing, but collectively uncohesive, the result a bit like trying to bake a Victoria sponge out of cupcakes. Their halfbacks were usually inexplicable, whilst the pack were usually only just smaller than the stadium and able to run for about as long as it too. They would turn up, knock the ball on a few times, smash a few scrummages, then go home to continue baking garlic pastries and watching existential movies. But then they did that Frenchest of things. They had a revolution. Oh, hello, this is the French coach Carnoves. I'm away from the phone right now, so please leave me one message after the tone. Unless you want mon grand-parent, in which case I'm not picking you for the Six Nations. My daughters have already had to move school 3 times. Just leave me alone. Oh, but my wife says hi. Bonjour, je m'appelle Bernard Laporte from La French Rugby Union. I'm just calling to wish you un Christmas to Mali and un New Year to Happy. By the way, you are fired and no longer have a job. Bye! As that historically accurate phone call, which I recorded on my tripod writing for The Sun, shows, last year, on Christmas Eve, France coach and apparent Robert De Niro impersonator Guy Novès was fired. To this day, Novès insists he had no idea why. After all, he was doing a great job. In the previous 12 months, France had won 3 games and lost just 8. And on top of that, they drew with the rugby powerhouse that is Japan. However, if you want to look more closely, and I mean really closely, it became very clear just why France wanted the change. They were shit. So before France could even ring in Le Year de New, in comes Jacques Brunel, who got the post because he did such a great job with Italy. Because he was doing a really great job with boards. Because of his moustache. It must have something to do with his moustache. Maybe they wanted to change their image and thought he was a long-lost Mario brother or an 80s porn star or a hipster barista who's going to regret the way he looks in his sister's wedding photos for the rest of his life. I don't know. I've got no idea why they hired Jacques Brunel. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, let's just move on and look at what he's done since he got the job. Since hiring Brunel, France has looked a bit more like a team, but an awful lot more like a French team. This year in the Six Nations, France were still shit, but they were a new positive kind of shit. You know that feeling when you step and poo on your way to work, and then all day, even well after you've wiped off and scrubbed your shoes, you can't forget it or shake the feeling that it's still there. France became that kind of shit. The kind of shit that hangs on, that lingers, that ruins a day. France became experts at bringing teams down to their level. No matter who they played, they managed to find a way to disrupt their game plan and pull them into a very tight, very boring battle. Ireland needed one of the best drop goals you'll ever see in order to beat them, and Wales looked set to pull away comfortably, only for the match to become so dull the Welsh seemed to fall asleep and let them back into the game. France's game seemed so boring because their tactics were so simple. They went through more phases per minute in possession than any other team in the championship. Whilst you may think this indicates they play a fast, exciting game moving the ball, it actually says the opposite. France were almost entirely reliant on one-up runners, able to chirp through phases because one ruck was very close to another. A one-up runner is exactly what it says on the tin. You position a big bastard, or in France's case, a big bastero, right next to the current ruck, pop a short pass to them, and then they go for contact quicker than I would if you asked me what Robert Zemeckis' most underrated film was. The aim being to make single metres at a time. The benefit of this tactic is it gives your team a really easy target to clear out, so retaining the ball is very easy, and it tires out defence, as tackling big men is exhausting. France just smashed forward inch by inch, not trying anything more risky unless they had a penalty advantage. In which case, the ball came wide and the backline would just get so excited they'd collectively scream and shit themselves, just like I would have ever put face to face with any of the players I've ever criticised on this channel. To their credit, France did actually implement this very basic strategy very well. They changed where the runners came from and how they positioned themselves throughout the game to prevent a repetitive structure becoming predictable. It's a bit like listening to Franz Ferdinand. Yes, it's the same thing over and over again, but every repetition is just different enough for you to still pre-order each album they put out. Throughout the championship, their defence was excellent, nullifying opposition attack and neutral entertainment in one go. They would blitz near the ruck, encouraging teams to go wide, but then drift further out, meaning there wasn't the space they'd hoped for. They tackled with iconically un-French discipline, averaging 91% tackle completion, highest in the championship. This is far and away their biggest positive coming out of the Six Nations. So before they faced the best attack in the world as they headed down to New Zealand, it obviously made sense for France to get rid of their defensive coach and change their defensive system fundamentally. For a man who looks like he only watches Countryfile, Brunel is surprisingly unafraid of trying new things. One such innovation was his ingenious suggestion that because the team is made up of French players from all the French sides and changes all the time, the coaches should too. So his attack, defence, fitness, forwards and backs coaches from the Six Nations all lost their jobs and were replaced by new coaches from different clubs in the top 14. It's like Brunel promised too many people a job if I'm ever le French coach in Riviera pubs down the years, and now has to get for a lifetime of ill thought out offers in the space of half a World Cup cycle. From an outside perspective, it looks like a stupid idea, as it prevents a team building any continuity and means players maybe having to learn as many as 4 or 5 different game plans in the space of a season. However, in practice, it is a stupid idea for that and many other reasons. Suddenly, France's defence is horrible. They let New Zealand waltz right through them, conceding numerous tries off first phase, which at test level is such a sin it probably makes Israel Folau convulse. Their tackle completion was suddenly horrendous, many players not even bothering to make tackles like Jean Lassie here. And yet, one good thing has come of France's rent-a-coach policy. Whilst replacing defence coach Jean-Marc Baderité was an absolutely terrible idea, the musical chairs in the coach's box did allow France to find a new attack coach, and with it, a new lease of life in the form of Laurent Lebitte. Since the Six Nations, France's attack has changed 180, or as they say in France, the 80 to 1. Gone was the need to play 1 inch at a time, replaced by something you could confuse for grace and flair. Instead of clumping together like teenage girls in a bathroom, look at how far apart France spread their attackers. However, they left a sizable batch on one touchline at all times. Essentially, France used the wing in the way most teams use the middle of the pitch. That was where they would aim to use their stadium-sized forwards to carry, giving the attack a dedicated focal point, somewhere where they knew they could keep going forward, but be nowhere near as heavily defended as the centre of the pitch. They would play what was in front of them for a few phases, then if things started to slow down, they'd revert back to that touchline or to freshen up and start again. The sheer number of players they're putting on that wing also allowed them to offload freely in that channel, a la La Rochelle. In a way, it made them picking glossy centre forward of a centre, Gaël Fickou, on the wing make sense, as he wasn't a spare part out wide, but the man in the middle of their main action area. And things only got better in the third test when they brought back in the world's quickest bar of soap, Wesley Fofana. Fofana is actually part of further proof that rugby predates William Webb Ellis, with suggestions of the sport dating back as far as ancient Greece, when Aristotle posed the question that became the proverb: if there is no gap in your defensive line, but Wesley Fofana still goes straight through one, does your defensive line exist at all? I don't know the answer, but then I also don't know how Fofana makes half the breaks he does. He's inexplicable, unpredictable, borderline undefendable. It forces the defence to think and focus, watching Fofana so they can stop him before he teleports the other side of the defensive line. Thanks to Fofana's mere existence, something philosophers questioned for thousands of years, France's other backs were now able to get more profit out of simple backs moves than they would have otherwise managed. And yet, finding Lebitte was also the worst thing about Brunel's master plan, because whoopsie daisy, he's now gone. He won't be France's attack coach in the autumn. That'll be someone new, whose game plan will probably be to inject the players with albatross DNA in the hope this means they can fly over the defensive line. In a world of logic, Brunel would take the defence from the Six Nations, the attack from the summer, marry them together, discover they were cousins the whole time, not mine because he's French, then send his team out to the World Cup with an all-round game that might force England and Argentina to actually play. But then it's even more likely that France will rock up to Japan next year with a backroom staff comprising of the summer's defence coach, the Six Nations attack coach, and Isabelle Huppert scrum coach with Gerard Depardieu in charge of fitness. They may be hard to follow, but at least the one true constant in the game we romantically choose to believe William Webb Ellis accidentally created has returned to being. World Rugby can change the laws, the All Blacks can change the game, but at least, once more, you never know which French team is going to turn up. So, seeing as Sam Warburton watched the last video, I just want to say, Jacques Brunel, if you are watching, Cois tu fate avec mon lama, and thank you to everyone else who's watched it as well. I really appreciate you watching that video, and to everyone that's also supported the channel on Patreon, that's greatly appreciated. In particular this month, I want to say thank you to Danny Burns, to to Diamond Burke and to Evan Cannon, because together the three of them sound like characters in a heist film. And also thank you to Rugby Warfare for supporting the channel, for sponsoring the channel. And if anyone does want 20% off any Rugby Warfare bits, why not just check out offer code SQ20. I think that's a great idea. Don't tell too many people, because we might put them out of business if they're 20% off everything. So it's a great offer. Anyway, we'll be back shortly. Have a nice time until then.
Great chase, but